Hey crew, it's Pitt and I am back with some more ancient knowledge. Today we are going to be diving back into the works of Thrice Great Hermes. We will be reading aloud 3 chapters from the book, translated by G.R.S. Mead. We will be starting with About the Common Mind of Hermes to Tat. Let's dig in and see what's up. Hermes. This is a conversation just like the other ones were, so Hermes. The mind, O Tat, is of God's very essence, if such a thing as essence of God there be, and what that is, it and only it knows precisely. The mind, then, is not separated off from God's essentiality, but is united unto it as light to sun. This mind in men is God, and for this cause some of mankind are gods, and their humanity is nigh unto divinity. For the good demon said, Gods are immortal men, and men are mortal gods. And we're going to pause right there because you are not God, right? You are a tiny fractional piece of God. True. You are divine in that you are from the divine spark, but you are not the sole arbiter of things, and therefore you are not God. Even in wisdom, you can find fallacy. But in irrational lives, mind is their nature. For where is soul, there too is mind, and just as where life is, there is also soul. But in irrational lives, their soul is life, devoid of mind. For mind is the inworker of the souls of men for good. He works on them for their own good. He lives irrational. He doth cooperate with each one's nature, but in the souls of men he counteracteth them. For every soul, when it becomes embodied, is instantly depraved by pleasure and by pain. For in a compound body, just like juices, pain and pleasure seethe, and into them the soul, on entering in, is plunged. Over whatever souls the mind doth then preside, to these it showeth its own light, by acting counter to their prepossessions, just as a good physician doth take upon the body prepossessed by sickness, pain inflict, burning, or lancing it for the sake of health. In just the selfsame way the mind inflicteth pain upon the soul, to rescue it from pleasure, whence comes its every ill. The great ill of the soul is godlessness. Then followeth fancy, for all evil things, and nothing good. So then, mind counteracting, it doth work good on the soul, as the physician health upon the body. But whatever human souls have not the mind as pilot, they share in the same fate as the souls of lives irrational. For mind becomes co-worker with them, giving full play to the desires toward which such souls are born, desires that from the rush of lust strain after the irrational, so that such human souls, just like irrational animals, cease not irrationally to rage and lust, nor ever are they satiate of ills. For passions and irrational desires are ills exceeding great, and over these God hath set up the mind to play the part of judge and executioner. Tat. In that case, father mine, the teaching as to fate which previously thou didst explain to me risks to be overset. For if it be absolutely fated for a man to fornicate, or commit sacrilege, or do some other evil deed, why is he punished when he hath done the deed from fate's necessity? Hermes. All work, my son, are fates, and without fate naught of things corporal, or good, or ill, can come to pass. But it is fated too that he who doeth ill shall suffer. For this cause he doth it, that he may suffer what he suffereth, because he did it. But for the moment, let be the teaching as to vice and fate, for we have spoken of these things in other of our sermons. But now our teaching is about the mind, what mind can do, and how it is so different in men being such and such, and in irrational lives changed. And then again that in irrational lives it is not a beneficial nature, while that in men it quencheth out the wrathful and lustful elements. Of men, again, we must class some as led by reason, and others as unreasoning. But all men are subject to fate, and genesis, and change, and these are the beginning and the end of fate. And though all men do suffer fated things, those led by reason, those whom we said the mind doth guide, do not endure like suffering with the rest. But, since they freed themselves from viciousness, not being bad, they do not suffer bad. How meanest thou again, my father? Is not the fornicator bad, the murderer bad, and so with all the rest? Hermes. I meant not that, but that the mind-led man, my son, though not a fornicator, will suffer just as though he had committed fornication, and though he be no murderer, as though he had committed murder. The quality of change he can no more escape than that of Genesis, but it is possible for one who hath the mind to free himself from vice. Wherefore I've ever heard my son, good demon, also say, and had he set it down in written words, he would have greatly helped the race of men. For he alone, my son, doth truly, as the firstborn God, gazing upon all things, give voice to words. Yea, once I heard him say, all things are one, and most of all the bodies which the mind alone perceives. Our life is owing to God's energy and power and eon. His mind is good, and so is his soul as well. And this, being so, intelligible things know naught of separation. So then, mind, being ruler of all things, and being soul of God, can do whatever it wills. So, do thou understand and carry back this word into the question thou didst ask before? I mean, about mind's fate. If thou dost with accuracy, son, eliminate all captious arguments, thou wilt discover that the very mind, the very truth of the mind, the soul of God, do rule over all, over fate, the law, and all things else, and nothing is impossible to it, neither over fate to set a human soul, nor under fate to set a soul neglectful of what comes to pass. Let this so far suffice from the good demon's most good words. Tat. Yeah. Divinely spoken, Father mine, truly and helpfully. But further still, explain me this. Thou saidst that mind in lives irrational worked in them as their nature, co-working with their impulses. But impulses of lives irrational, as I do think, are passions. Now, if the mind co-worketh with these impulses, and if the impulses of lives irrational be passions, then is mind also passion, taking its color from the passions. Hermes. Well put, my son, thou questionest right nobly, and it is just as well I should answer nobly. All things incorporeal, when in a body, are subject unto passion, and in the proper sense they are themselves all passions. For everything that moves another is incorporeal, while everything that's moved is body. Incorporeals are further moved by mind, and movement's passion. Both then are subject unto passion, both mover and the moved, the former being ruler and the latter ruled. But when a man hath freed himself from body, then he is also freed from passion. But, more precisely, son, naught is impassible, but all are passable. Yet passion differeth from passibility, for that the one is active, while the other's passive. Incorporeals, moreover, act upon themselves, for either they are motionless or they are moved, but whichever it be, it's passion. But bodies are invariably acted on, and therefore are they passible? Do not, then, let terms trouble thee. Action and passion are both the selfsame thing. To use the fairer sounding term, however, does no harm. Tat. Most clearly hast thou, father mine, set forth the teaching. Hermes. Consider this as well, my son, that these two things God hath bestowed on man, beyond all mortal lives, both mind and speech. Equal to immortality, he hath the mind for knowing God, and uttered speech for eulogy of him. And if one useth these things for what he ought, he'll differ not a whit from the immortals. Nay, rather on departing from the body he will be guided by the twain unto the choir of gods and blessed ones. Tat. Why, father mine, do not the other lives make use of speech? Hermes. Nay, son, but use of speech, use of voice. Speech is far different from voice, for speech is general among all men, while voice differeth from each class of living things. But with men also, father mine, according to each race, speech differs. Yea, son, but man is one, so also speech is one, and is interpreted. And it is found the same in Egypt, and in Persia, and in Greece. Thou seemest, son, to be in ignorance of reason's worth and greatness. For that the blessed God, good Damon, hath declared, soul is in body, mind is in soul, but reason is in mind, and mind in God, and God is Father of all these. The reason then is the mind's image, and God mind's God's, and mind God's image, while body is of the form, and form of the soul. The subtlest part of matter is then air, of air soul, of soul mind, and of mind God. And God surroundeth all, and permeath all, while mind surroundeth soul, soul air, air matter. Necessity and providence, and nature are instruments of cosmos and of matter's ordering, while of intelligible things each is essence, and sameness is their essence. But of the bodies of the cosmos each is many, for though possessing sameness, composed bodies, though they do change from one into another of themselves, do nonetheless ever keep the incorruption of their sameness. Whereas in all the rest of composed bodies, of each there is a certain number, for without number structure cannot be, or composition, or decomposition. Now it is units that give birth to number and increase it, and, being decomposed, are taken back again into themselves. Matter is one, and this whole cosmos, the mighty God and image of the mightier one, both with him unified and the conserver of will and order of the Father, is filled, full of life. Naught is there in it throughout the whole of eon, the Father's everlasting re-establishment, nor of the whole, nor of its parts, which doth not live. For not a single thing that's dead hath been, or is, or shall be in this cosmos. For that the Father willed it, it should have a life, as long as it should be, wherefore it needs must be a God. How then, O soul, Son, could there be in the God, the image of the Father, in the plenitude of life, dead things? For that death is corruption, and corruption is destruction. How then could any part of which knoweth no corruption be corrupted, or any whit of him the God destroyed? Do they not then die, my Father, the lives in it that are its parts? Hush, son, led into error by the term in use for what takes place. They do not die, my son, but are dissolved as compound bodies. Now, dissolution is not death, but dissolution of a compound. It is not dissolved. It is dissolved, not so that it may be destroyed, but that it may become renewed. For what is the activity of life? Is it not motion? What then in the cosmos is there that has no motion? Naught is there, son. That does not earth even, Father, seem to thee to have no motion? Hermes. Nay, son, but rather that she is the only thing which, through in very rapid motion, is also stable. For how could it not be a thing to laugh at that the nurse of all should have no motion, when she engenders and brings forth all things? For it is impossible that without motion one who doth engender should do so. That thou shouldst ask if the fourth part is not inert, is most ridiculous, for that the body, which doth have no motion, gives sign of nothing but inertia. Know therefore, generally, my son, that all that is in the cosmos is being moved for decrease or for increase. Now, that which is kept moving also lives, but there is no necessity that that which lives should be all same. For being simultaneous, the cosmos as a whole is not subject to change, my son, but all its parts are subject unto it, yet not of it is subject to corruption or destroyed. It is the terms employed that could confuse men. For 'tis not genesis that constituteth life, but 'tis sensation. It is not change that constituteth death, but 'tis forgetfulness. Since, then, these things are so, they are immortal, all, matter, life, spirit, mind, and soul, of which whatever liveth is composed. Whatever then doth live, oweth its immortality unto the mind, and most of all doth man, he who is both recipient of God and coessential with him. For with this life alone doth God consort, by visions in the night, by tokens in the day, and by all things doth he foretell the future unto him, by birds, by inward parts, by wind, by tree. Wherefore doth man lay claim to know things past, things present, and to come. Observe this too, my son, that each one of the other lives inhabiteth one portion of the cosmos. Aquatic creatures water, terrene, earth, and airy creatures air, while man doth use all of these, earth, water, air, and fire. He seeth heaven too, and doth contact it with his sense. But God surroundeth all, and permeath all, for he is energy and power. And it is nothing difficult, my son, to conceive God. But if thou wouldst him also contemplate, behold the ordering of the cosmos. See the orderly behavior of its ordering. Behold thou the necessity of things made manifest, and see the province of things become and things becoming. Behold how matter is all full of life. Behold, this is so great, God in movement, with all the good and noble ones, gods, demons, and men. Tat. But these are purely energies, O father mine. Hermes. If then they're purely energies, my son, by whom then are they energized, except by God? Or art thou ignorant that just as heaven and earth and water and air are part of cosmos, in just the self-same way God's parts are life and immortality, energy and spirit, and necessity and province and nature and soul and mind, and the duration of all these? That is called good, and there is naught of things that have become or are becoming in which God is not. Tat. Is he in matter then, father? Hermes. Matter, my son, is separate from God, in order that thou mayest attribute it to the quality of space. But what thing else than math thinkst thou that it is, if it's not energized? Whereas, if it be energized, by whom is it made so? For energies, we said, are parts of God. But whom are, then, all lives and by whom, then, are all lives enlivened? By whom are things made immortal? By whom changed things made changeable? And whether thou dost speak of matter or of body or of essence, know that these two are energies of God, and that materiality is matter's energy, that corporality is body's energy, and that essentiality doth constitute the energy of essence, and this is God, the All. And in the All is naught that is not God, wherefore nor size, nor space, nor quality, nor form, nor time surroundeth God, for he is all, and all surroundeth all, and permeateth all. Unto this reason, son, thy adoration and thy worship pay, and there is one way alone to worship God. It is not to be bad. And so ends about the common mind. And what we learn from this is something that I talk about all the time. Two things. First off, God is. God is all things. We talked about this several times in this particular series, right? God is me, God is you, God is the space between me and you, and he is the space between me and you. That it means that he is everything. He is both the things that fill the void and the void itself. He is anything that you can conceive of. If you can lay your hands on it, that's God. And if you can't lay your hands on it, that's God too. Everything is God. You and me. We are pieces of God. We are not gods, even though this does say that. We are not gods. We are tiny fragments of God. God is so immense, so vast that he cannot experience except through the mortal. And so we come here. We come here willfully. We make the choice to come here. Every single one of us, me and you and anybody that you know, we all made the choice to come here. And we decided before we got here that we were going to learn lessons. I decided that I was going to teach you a lesson and you're going to teach me a lesson. And if we ever meet in person or you make comments or anything of that nature, it is to teach me something. It is to help me to learn something in life. The lessons that we are to learn are one of two, right? It is either to seek God or to deny God. There is a spiral of choice. You can picture it as a screw, and you are in the middle. When you are born, you are dead in the middle. And you make choices all through your life that either brings you closer to God or further from God. You're either going up the spiral of choice or you're going down the spiral of choice. The spiral of choice, to be positive, is always to choose life, love, light, and growth. And the opposite is true for going downhill. And you get to make those choices every single day. You have the freedom to make those choices even if they are the wrong choices, because God gets the experience from you. God cannot know grief unless you lose something. Not you specifically, but you as a whole, humanity. Unless there is loss, God does not know pain. Unless there is love, God does not know happiness. It is up to us to have the experience for Him. And sometimes those experiences are bad. And when those bad experiences is had, you still have that same choice. It is either up or down. You're either going to accept it and grow and get better, or you're going to deny it and shrink and get bitter. Those are the choices. That is your free will in action. That is, in basic, what this whole chapter was about. Now we're going to look at the next one, which is the secret sermon on the mountain concerning rebirth and the promise of silence of Thrice Great Hermes unto Tat, his son. And again, this is a conversation, so it's going back and forth, and Tat is going to start this one. In the general sermons, Father, thou didst speak in riddles, most unclear, conversing on divinity. And when thou saidst no man could ever be saved before rebirth, thou meaning thou didst hide. Further, when I became thy supplicant up in wending up the mount, after thou hadst conversed with me, and when I longed to learn the sermon on rebirth, for this, beyond all other things, is just the thing I know not, thou saidst that thou wouldst give it to me when thou hast become a stranger to the world. Wherefore I got me ready, and made the thought in me a stranger to the world illusion. And now do thou fill up the things that fall short in me with what thou hadst said would give me the tradition of rebirth, setting it forth in speech or in the secret way. I know not, O thrice greatest one, from out what matter and what womb man comes to birth, or of what seed. Hermes, wisdom that understands in silence, such is the matter and the womb from out which man is born, and the true good, the seed. Tat, who is the sower, Father? For I am altogether at a loss. Hermes, it is the will of God, my son. Tat, and what kind is he that is begotten, Father? For I have no share of that essence in me, which doth transcend the senses. The one that is begot will be another one from God, God's Son, all in all, out of all the powers composed. Thou tellest me a riddle, Father, and dost not speak as father unto son. Hermes, this race, my son, is never taught, but when he willeth it, its memory is restored by God. That thou sayest things impossible, O Father, things that are forced. Hence answers what I have direct unto these things. Am I a son, strange to my father's race? Keep it not, Father, back from me. I am a true-born son. Explain to me the manner of rebirth. What shall I say, my son? I can but tell thee this. Whenever I see within myself the simple vision brought to birth out of God's mercy, I have passed through myself into a body that cannot die. And now I am not what I was before, but I am born in mind. The way to do this is not taught, and it cannot be seen by the compounded element by means of which thou seest. Yea, I have had my former composed form dismembered for me. I am no longer touched, yet I have touch. I have dimension, too, and yet I am a stranger to them now. Thou seest me with eyes, my son, but what am I thou dost not even understand, with fullest strain of body and of sight. Tat, into fierce frenzy and mind fury hast thou plunged me, Father, for now no longer do I see myself. Hermes, I would, my son, that thou hadst even passed right through thyself, as they who dream and sleep, yet sleepless. Tell me this too, who is the author of rebirth? The Son of God, the one man by God's will. Now hast thou brought me, Father, into pure stupefaction, arrested from the senses which I had before, for now I see thy greatness identical with thy distinctive form. Even in this thou art untrue. The mortal form doth change with every day. 'tis turned by time to grow and waning, to growth and waning, as being an untrue thing. What then is true, thrice greatest one? That which is never troubled, son, which cannot be defined, that which no color hath, nor any figure which is not turned, which hath no garment which giveth light, that which is comprehensible unto itself, which doth not suffer change, and that no body can contain. In very truth I lose my reason, father, just when I thought to be made wise by thee. I find the senses of this mind of mine blocked up. Hermes, thus is it, son. That which is upward borne like fire, yet is borne down like earth. That which is moist like water, yet blows like air. How shalt thou this perceive with sense? The that which is not solid, nor yet moist, which naught can bind or loose, and which in power and energy alone can man have any notion. And even then, it wants a man who can perceive the way of birth in God. That I am incapable of this, O father, then? Hermes, nay, God forbid, my son. Withdraw into thyself, and it will come. Will, and it comes to pass. Throw out of the work the body's senses, and thy divinity shall come to birth. Purge from thyself the brutish torment, things of matter. I have tormentors in me, then, father? Hermes, no few, my son, nay, fearful ones and manifold. Tat, I do not know them, father. Hermes, torment is first in this not knowing, son. The second one is grief, the third intemperance, the fourth concupiscence, the fifth unrighteousness, the sixth avarice, the seventh error, the eighth is envy, the ninth guile, the 10th is anger, the 11th rashness, and the 12th is malice. These are in number 12, but under them are many, many more, my son, and creeping through the prison of the body. They force the man that's placed within to suffer in his senses, but they depart, although not all at once, from him who hath been taken pity on by God. And this it is which constitutes the manner of rebirth, and the reason. And now, my son, be still, and solemn silence keep. Thus shall the mercy that flows on us from God not cease. Henceforth rejoice, O son, for by the powers of God thou art being purified for the articulation of the reason. Gnosis of God hath come to us, and when this comes, my son, not knowing is cast out. Gnosis of joy hath come to us, and on its coming, son, sorrow will flee away to them who give it room. The power that follows joy do I invoke, thy self-control. O power most sweet, let us most gladly bid it welcome, son. How with its coming doth it chase intemperance away. Now, forth on continence I call the power against desire. This step, my son, is righteousness's firm seat. For without judgment, see how she hath chased unrighteousness away. We are made righteous, son, by the departure of the unrighteousness. Power sixth I call to us, that against avarice, sharing with all. And now that avarice is gone, I call on truth, and error flees, and truth is with us. See how the measure of the good is full, my son, upon truth's coming. For envy hath gone from us, and unto truth is joined the good as well, with life and light. And now no more doth any torment of the darkness venture nigh, but vanquished have fled with whirring wings. Thou knowest now, my son, the manner of rebirth, and when the 10 is come, my son, that driveth out the 12, the birth and understanding is complete, and by this birth we are made into gods. Who then doth by his mercy gain this birth in God, abandoning the body's senses, knows himself to be of light and life, and that he doth consist of these, and thus is filled with bliss. Tat. By God made steadfast, Father, no longer with the sight of my eyes I afford to look on things, but with the energy the mind doth give me through the powers. In heaven am I, on earth, in water, air. I am in animals, in plants. I'm in the womb, before the womb. After the womb, I'm everywhere. But further tell me this, how are the torments of darkness, when they are 12 in number, driven out by the 10 powers? What is the way of it, thrice greatest one? We're going to talk about it, but it's not 10 or 12. It is 7 and 7. Hermes, this dwelling place through which we have just passed, my son, is constituted from the circle of the life, types of life. This being composed of elements, 12 in number, but of one nature, an omniform idea. For man's delusion there are disunions in them, son, while in their actions they are one. Not only can we never part rashness from wrath, they cannot even be distinguished. According to right reason, then, they naturally withdraw once and for all, inasmuch as they are chased out by no less than 10 powers, that is, the 10. For, son, the 10 is that which gives birth to souls, and light and life are unified there, where the one hath being from spirit. According to then reasons, the one contains the 10, and the 10 the one. Cat. Father, I see thee all. I see myself in mind. Hermes. This is, my son, rebirth. No more to look on things from body's viewpoint, a thing 3 ways in space extended. Through this sermon on rebirth, on which I did not comment, in order that we may not be calumniators of all unto the multitude, to whom indeed the God himself doth will we should not. Tell me, O Father, this body, which is made up of the powers, is it at any time dissolved? Hermes. Hush, son. Speak not of the things impossible, else thou wilt sin, and thy mind's eyes may be quenched. The natural body which our senses perceives is far removed from this essential birth. The first must be dissolved, the last never can be. The first must die, the last death cannot touch. Dost thou not know thou hast been born a god, son of the one, even as I myself? Tat. I would, O Father, hear the praise giving with him which thou didst say thou heard when thou wert at the 8 of powers. Hermes. Just as the shepherd did foretell, my son, when I came to the 8, well dost thou haste to strike thy tent, for thou hast been made pure. The shepherd, mind of all masterhood, hath not passed on to me more than hath been written down. For well did he know that I should be of myself be able to learn all, and hear what I should wish, and see all things. He left me the making of fair things, wherefore the powers within me, even as they are in all, break into song. Father, I wish to hear, I long to know these things. Hermes. Be still, my son. Hear the praise-giving now that keeps the soul in tune, hymn of rebirth. A hymn I would not have thought fit so readily to tell, hadst thou not reached the end of all. Wherefore this is not taught, but is kept hid in silence. Thus then, my son, stand in a place uncovered to the sky, facing the southern wind, about the sinking of the setting sun, and make thy worship. So, in like manner, too, when he doth rise, with face to the east wind. Now, son, be still. The secret hymnody. Let every nature of the world receive the utterance of my hymn. Open thou earth. Let every bolt of the abyss be drawn for me. Stir not, ye trees. I am about to hymn creation's Lord, both all and one. Yea, heavens open, and ye winds stay still, and let God's deathless sphere receive my word. For I will sing the praise of him who founded all, who fixed the earth and hung up heaven, and gave command that her ocean should afford sweet water to both those parts that are inhabited and those that are not, for the support and use of every man, who made the fire to shine for gods, and men for every act. Let us together all give praise to him, sublime above the heavens, of every nature Lord. 'Tis he who is the eye of mine, he may accept the praise of these my powers. Yea, powers that are within me, him, the one and all, sing with my will, powers all that are within me. O blessed Gnosis, by thee illumined, hymning through thee the light that mind alone can see, I, joy in joy of mind, sing with me praises of all ye powers. Sing praise, my self-control. Sing thou through me my righteousness, the praises of the righteous. Sing thou my sharing all, the praises of the all. Sing, through me sing, truth, truth's praises. Sing thou, O good, the good, O life and light, from us to you our praises flow. Father, I give thee thanks, to thee, thou energy of all my powers. I give thee thanks, O God, thou power of all my energies. Thy reason sings through me thy praises. Take back through me the all into thy reason, my reasonable oblation. Thus cry the powers in me. They sing thy praise, thou all, and they do thy will. From thee thy will, to thee the all, receive from all their reasonable oblation. The all that is in us, O life preserve, O light illumine it, O God inspirit it. It is thy mind that plays the shepherd to thy word, O thou creator, bestower of the Spirit upon all. Thou art God. Thy man thus cries to thee through fire, through air, through earth, through water, and through spirit, through thy creatures. 'Tis from thy aeon I have found praise-giving, and in thy will, the object of my search, have I found rest. By thy good pleasure have I seen this praise being sung. O Father, I have said it in my cosmos too. Say in the cosmos that thy mind alone can see, my son. That, yea, Father, in the cosmos, that mind alone can see, for I have been made able by thy hymn, and by thy praise-giving my mind has been illumined. But, further, I myself as well would from my natural mind send praise-giving to God. Hermes, but not unheedfully, my son. That, yea, what I behold in mind, that do I say. To thee, thou parent of my bringing into birth, as unto God I, Tat, send reasonable offerings. O God and Father, thou art the Lord, thou art the mind. Receive from me oblations reasonable as thou wouldst wish, for by thy will all things have been perfected. Hermes, send thou oblations, son, acceptable to God, the sire of all, but add my son too, through the word. I give thee, Father, thanks for showing me to sing such hymns. Hermes, happy am I, my son, that thou hast brought the good fruits, brought the good fruits forth from truth, products that cannot die. And now that thou hast learned this lesson from me, make promise to keep silence on thy virtue, and to no soul, my son, make known the handing on to thee the manner of rebirth, that we may not be thought to be calumniators. And now we both of us have given heed sufficiently, both I the speaker and the hearer thou. In mind thou hast become a knower of thyself and of our common sire. And so ends the secret Sermon on the Mountain. And what do we learn here? We learn that the soul is eternal, that it came from somewhere and that it is going somewhere. I happen to believe that. I happen to believe that before we were here, we were in union with God, not necessarily sitting around in some golden streeted place with buildings and mansions all around where you will go and have the earthly rewards in heaven that you did not have here. I don't believe that. I believe that we are here for the experience. I have been quite clear in expressing that, and I believe that this also is clear in expressing that you come from the eternal, and then when this mortal coil should happen to cease, you will return to the eternal, because you are part of the eternal. I do not believe, again, that you are God. I believe that you are a part of God, that you are a tiny sliver of God, that the soul that makes the choices in you was granted to this mortal flesh, to this coil, so that you can learn, so that you can have experiences, both good and bad. And that when you are done here, you will return, whether you are good or bad. And you will know at that point exactly where you stand and your lessons learned. And you will have the opportunity to come back and learn them again. And next time, if you did not learn them the first time, they get a little bit harder. And then the time following that, they're a little bit harder. But you have the chance to learn, because that is why we are here. That is the whole point of the existence, is to learn, to walk up that spiral of choice, regardless of the circumstances that may bring you there, whether it be good or bad. It is all for the benefit of your soul. You can experience the eternalness of your soul through meditation. That is a possibility. You have to be dedicated. You have to attempt it, and you have to allow it. You have to ask for it. It does not come upon you unbidden. And then the final one we're going to do today is a letter of Thrice Great Hermes to Asclepious. Unto Asclepious, good health of the soul. All right, one more. Since, in thy absence, my son Tat desired to learn the nature of things that are, and would not let me hold it over, as natural to a younger son, fresh come to gnosis of the teachings on each single point. I was compelled to tell him more and more that the contemplation of them might be the easier for him to follow. I would then, choosing out the chiefest heads of what was said, write them in brief to thee, explaining them more mystically, as unto one of the greater age and one well versed in nature. If all things manifest have been and are being made, and made things are not made by themselves, but by another, if made things are the many, nay, more, are all things manifest, and all things different and not alike, and things that are being made by other than themselves. There is some one who can make these things, and he cannot be made, but is more ancient than the things that can. For things that can be made, I say, are made by other than themselves. But of the things that owe their being to their being made, it is impossible that anything should be more ancient than them all, save only that which is not able to be made. So he is both supreme and one and only, and truly wise in all, as having naught more ancient than himself. For he doth rule over both the number, size, and difference of things that are being made, and over the continuity of their making too. Again, things makeable are seeable, but he cannot be seen. For this cause he maketh, that he may not be able to be seen. He, therefore, ever maketh, and therefore can he never be seen. To comprehend him thus is meet, and comprehending is meet to marvel, and marveling, to count oneself as blessed, is having learnt to know one's sire. For what is sweeter than one's own true sire? Who then is he, and how shall we learn to know him? Is it not right to dedicate to him alone the name of God, or that of Maker, or of Father, or rather all three? God for his power, and Maker for his energy, and Father for his good. Now, power doth differ from the things which are being made, while energy consisteth in all things being made. Wherefore we ought to put away verbosity and foolish talk, and understand these two, the made and the maker. For that of them there is no middle term, there is no third. Wherefore in all that thou conceivest, in all thou nearest, these two recall to mind, and think all things are they, doubtful reckoning as doubtful not, nor of all of the things above, nor of the things below, neither of things divine, nor things that suffer change, or things that are in obscuration. For all things are twain, maker and made, and 'tis impossible that one should be without the other, for neither is it possible that maker should exist without the made, for each of them is one and the same thing. Wherefore 'tis no more possible for one from the other to be parted than self from self. Now, if the maker is naught else but that which makes, alone, simple, uncompounded, it needs must do this to itself, to which its maker's making is its being made. And as to all things being made, it cannot be by being made by its own self, but it must needs to be made by being made by other. Without the maker, made is neither made nor is. For that the one without the other doth lose its proper nature by deprivation of that other. If, then, all things have been admitted to be two, that which is being made and that which makes, all then are one in unison of these, that which leadeth and that which followeth. The making God is that which leadeth. The that which is being made, whatever it be, the that which followeth. And do not thou be chary of things made because of their variety, from fear of attribution, of a low estate and lack of glory unto God. For that his glory is one, to make all things, and this is, as it were, God's body, the making of them. But by the maker's self, naught is their thought, or bad, or base. These things are passions, which accompany the making process, as rust doth brass, and filleth doth body, but neither doth the brass-smith make the rust, nor the begetters of the body filth, nor God make evil. It is continuance in the state of being made that makes them lose, as though it were their bloom. And 'tis because of this God hath made change, as though it were the making clean of Genesis. Is it, then, possible for one and the same painter-man to make both heaven and gods, and earth and sea, and men, and all the animals and lifeless things and trees, and yet impossible for God to make all things? What monstrous lack of understanding, what want of knowledge as to God! For such the strangest lot of all do suffer, for though they say they worship piously, and sing the praise of God, yet by their not ascribing unto him the making of all things, they know not God, and, added unto this not knowing, they're guilty even of the worst impiety to him, passions to him attributing, or arrogance, or impotency. For if he doth not make all things from arrogance, he doth not make, or not being able, which is impiety to think. One passion hath God only, good, and he whose good is neither arrogant nor impotent. For this is God, the good, which hath the power of making all. And all that can be made is made by God, that is, by him who is the good, and who can make all things. But wouldst thou learn how he doth make, and how things are made? Thou mayest do so. Behold, a very fair and resemblant image. A husbandman casting the seeds into the ground, here wheat, there barley, and there, again, some other of the seeds. Behold, one and the same man planting the vine, the apple, and all the other trees. Just in the selfsame way doth God sow immortality in heaven, and change on earth, and life and motion in the universe. These are not many, but few, and easy to be numbered. For 4 in all are they, and God himself, and Genesis, in whom are all that are. And so ends the letter to Asclepious. And in this, we get again the reiteration that God is all, God is everything, God is, and therefore we are. If not for God, we would not be. If not for God, we would not return to anywhere. If not for God, you wouldn't breathe. If not for God, there would be nothing. There is nothing that is separable from God, even the bad. That is different than what is being learned here, but it is true just as well. Even in wisdom, you can find foolishness, and even in foolishness, you can find wisdom. And sometimes the understanding is to be increased, right? It is silly to believe that God is the good and not the bad, because God is both. God is you making your free will choice. That doesn't mean that he controls it. You do. But you are part of God, so therefore, he is a part of it too. And even the bad things come from God, because you learn from bad things. You can learn from good things. It is much harder to do so, because you don't appreciate the lesson as much as you do when things are hard. When you're being blessed, it's easy to take that blessing as coming from you. But when you are being tried, it is easy to understand that trials come from God. And so the goal is to seek the good always, because that is what God wants your choice to be. But he gives you the choice of the other too, because the lessons are not always linear. Sometimes they go up and sometimes they come down. Sometimes the lesson requires you to walk down the hill, to be in the valley, to be in the low place so that you can learn to climb out of it. That is part of the lesson just as much as accepting your blessings and giving thanks to God for them. All of that is part of why you're here. It is part of the lesson. It is part of the one. The one is all. It is me, it is you. It is the space between us and the space between the space between us. Everything is God. And if you can wrap your mind around the fact that even the hard times are God, it becomes a lot easier to understand the eternal. It becomes a lot easier to understand the destination of the soul. It becomes a lot easier to accept that mistakes happen and that you are to learn from them and not to get bogged down by them, and definitely not to double down on them. Hopefully I brought a little bit of enlightenment and not too much confusion to a somewhat complicated topic. I don't believe or agree with every single thing in this, but most of it is true. Most of what we have read so far has been true. I have, to the best of my ability, sown the seeds so that you can find the true knowledge, but it takes diligence. It takes you actually doing the work, to seek the mind of God, to spend the time in prayer and meditation. Do your fasting so that you can hear from Him. It is not to hold you back that you are asked to not do things. It is to help you. When you're told, hey, you're drinking too much, it is to help you learn something. It's not to keep you from drinking. To the crew, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you are here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Me and you are the same. Until next time, I love you. God loves you. You are perfect, whole, and complete, just the way that you are. This has been Pet Steak. Peace.